Can I do it? Yeah. I would like to copy it on the desktop and take my what's happening here. Can I do it? This one? There is copy. Can I do it? This one? Yeah, but I can copy it on the desktop. Yes, yeah. Not open, but copy. Yes, only copy. This is the copy option. Yeah, desktop. Yeah, yes. There is Control A. Yes. Yeah. Is it here now? You can see it. P. It's PPT. Yeah, this one, no? No. No. Achan. Yes. It's just use my stick. Yeah, you can. Yeah, I can just use it because after me, there's going to be questions and then side. So I can put her also. There's no problem. It ready. It was in some folder. Yes. This one? Yes. Yeah, with me. Thank you. Yes. You want to share it now?
Good morning and welcome to this. Good morning and welcome to this seminar which we are organizing in collaboration with University of Helsinki, University of Viskula, Gentle, Nordic Center, and Matasundari College, the Department of Elementary Education and the Internal Quality Assessment Cell, IQAC, is conducting this international seminar, and I welcome all of you to this. The reason that we are here today is also because there is an increasing international exchange of ideas. There's an increasing international exchange of there's a cross-border delivery of educational facilities and learning. There's a lot of knowledge transfer that is happening. There is a lot of assessments that are internationally conducted, and wherein which we do find that there are references to certain countries who have been constantly doing very well. At the same time, there is also, because there is so much of knowledge transfer that is happening, so it's also an opportunity for us to interact, get to know what is happening in various countries, and look at our own specific context and see how much of that can be transferred, how much of it is relevant and applicable. So the platform like this is primarily a process for facilitating some of these interactions, and at various levels, because here there are professors here, and there are undergraduate students also here. So the idea is to, how do we transfer knowledge at various levels? How do we transfer knowledge between institutions, between countries, and what is it that we can do to make teacher education processes meaningful and equitable and full of quality. Because Finland has always done well in some of these tests, so it's an opportunity for us to learn. And because there are at least 2 institutions and 2 universities which are represented here, and from Finland, so we will get to hear and get to know a little bit more about how teacher education is conducted there. What are the processes that are in place? So before we begin, I would request our principal, Madam Professor Harpreet Kaur, to welcome our guests, as well as inaugurate this seminar, and then we proceed with the conference.
Very good morning, all. Dear students, all the guests here. I think I will read out the names: Professor Serpa, Professor Dr. Sai, Ms. Priya, and Ms. Christabel. So you are guests today, and thank you for joining us, and Department of Education and the students. See, here we are interacting with the Finnish system, and we learned something about the Finnish system. India and Finland, I think all the countries of the world are basically, education is at the best, because we need educated manpower. And since India has a lot of, you can say, young people, it's very important that our human resource is very well, they understand. So it's very important, that people are educated. But the education system varies from country to country. The main difference, what I can say is, in Finland and India, is about the numbers, the sheer numbers that we have, and sheer numbers having impact on the quality. Of course, we know that Finnish system is very, very advanced, and it is very smooth also as far as foundational education is concerned, and one of the best educated countries also. We have the manpower also, but inclusion is at the best. Basically both the countries are talking about inclusion. Finnish system also talks about inclusion. India also wants that more and more people should be included, and that is the challenge for us. For us, including all the people who are specially marginalized, who are vulnerable and all, into the education system is a challenge. And for inclusion, we have been doing many things. For example, we have also this midday meal concept where, we want that, that meal will come will be given to those people who are coming there, or those children who are coming there. That was one thing why this compulsory education and basic education, the numbers started more, and more and more people started in the rural areas. They started coming to the schools. So there are challenges as far as India is concerned, as far as this inclusion is concerned. And Finnish system, as I've seen, very, very sketchily, it is also free, sort of free education is there, and it's promoted. But free and compulsory education in India is again a challenge. The numbers is so much, despite all these efforts of the government for this free and compulsory education. You were talking about I think Radhika was telling about the NCD schools that they are, most of the children go there. But here we don't want to send our children to the municipality schools. There are plenty of schools. Of course, a change is coming in, but still, most of you are from the private setup only. That education, the level of education given there is much more. But then again, it is financial burden because both the things are giving a lot of impact. So we have to understand that how we can make things very smooth, and we can learn from the Finnish experience that how we can make things more inclusive, how more and more people would come into the system. And but main thing is we need to spend more on the education. The government has to have these policies where free education and all, a lot of money is pouring in, but again that is a challenge. So there are various parameters also about the assessment system. Assessment system is, I think, free of assessment are sort of very light assessments is there. Still, students are doing very well. Here we try to have assessments all the time. Now we are becoming a change. With NEP 2020, this change has come in. The assessment has become more formative. We are seeing the students and they're all through the year, and we are assessing them, and then those so your internal assessment becomes very important. So if you're seeing student at every stage, I think that is the best quality, and student will deliver the best quality. So these are various things which we can learn, that how effortless education can be there, how you can make students very comfortable at home, especially at the foundational level, at the basic level. If the students gain confidence there and then I think they will be good citizen, and later on they will do well. So it is very important. The first 10 years or 12 years, I believe, is very important, where the student should be geared up to take up all the challenges in an effortless way. So these are the few challenges before us. So we have to find certain parameters, how we have to change our system, and that gradual change is coming in India also, but we need a little bit more. And here our guest will speak about so many things about their experiences, and which we can learn and implement also. And the students, or you must also hear, and you must understand that how comparison can be worked in, and how you can change yourself based on that comparison. Because if you are keeping that into consideration, then your teachers will also give you a platform where you can progress your personality, you can develop your personality. So all these are important. All things are interrelated. So teaching and learning is a process. It is a kind of and if we make this process enjoyable, if we make this process very smooth, I think the outcomes would be much more conducive. So it is important, because learning is, we also learn so much from you. You learn from, of course, from the teachers. But if you make us learn more, if you put in more questions, and if you talk to us and about new things and new policies and new things which you want from the college, I think we'll do much better. So it is a both way process. Try to put your thinking caps on and think more about what you are studying in the class. If you think more, then again you can be critical. You can be critical, and being critical will land, and you will end up as a better person. So basically education is about all this inclusive education, and also how how things are smooth. So here with the Finnish experience and Indian experience, we talk, and we try to draw some parallels also, learn from each other, and motivate each other as well. So thank you very much. I thank my guests to be here, and also my Department of Education who have planned this interaction, and all the students who are here, and the technical support and IKC all who are here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam, for setting the context of the seminar. As we proceed further, I would like to invite the Director of IQAC. Just 2 words, just tell us about the institution, if you like. You can speak from there.
Madam Principal, delegates, इंक्लूसिव एजुकेशन का सबसे अच्छा तरीका ये कि हम अपनी लैंग्वेज में बोलें। सबसे पहला पैरामीटर तो यही है कि जो लैंग्वेज मेरी है मैं उसी लैंग्वेज करूँगा, दूसरी लैंग्वेज। ठीक है, जिसको समझ में समझ। और दूसरी बात, हाँ, तो दूसरी बात, मैडम ने कई सारे सेक्स की बात की और अलग अलग कैटेगरीज की भी बात करने की कोशिश की। इंक्लूसिव एजुकेशन में एक जरूरी मॉडलिटीज है कि हम डिसेबिलिटी को साथ में लेकर चलें। अभी हम SC STs सभी तरह की माइनॉरिटीज को हम एक स्कूल में लाने की कोशिश करते हैं, लेकिन हम जब डिसेबिलिटी की बात करते हैं तो सरकार की ओर से भी या किसी और की ओर से भी या किसी और की ओर से भी ये कहा जाता है एक मॉडल स्कूल बनाकर अलग से दे, एक कॉन्सेप्ट को देने की कोशिश करते हैं। एक मॉडल स्कूल बना देते हैं, उसमें सभी तरह के डिसेबिलिटी उसको अलग रखते हैं। उनको जो नॉर्मल स्कूल से नॉर्मल कॉलेजेस होते हैं उसमें क्यों लेकर आए, वहाँ पर ज्यादा चैलेंजेस है उनको। अभी कल एक पेरेंट्स मेरे पास आए और उन्होंने मुझे एक बड़ा जेन्युइन सा सवाल पूछा, क्या सर कॉलेज के टीचर्स को ये राइट है कि बच्चों को डिस्करेज करे कि आप ये सब्जेक्ट नहीं पढ़ सकते। डिसेबल बच्चे के पेरेंट्स का ये सवाल था। तो मैंने कहा ऐसा कोई राइट किसी भी टीचर को नहीं है कि वो किसी भी बच्चे को ये डिस्करेज करे कि आप ये सब्जेक्ट नहीं पढ़ सकते। तो ये एक इस तरह की प्रैक्टिस एजुकेशन में लगातार चल रही है। अब जैसे हमसे कह दिया जाता है कि आप ये चीज मत पढ़ो, ये मत करो, टॉप फ्लोर क्यों जाते हो, आप ग्राउंड फ्लोर पर कमरे लो। क्यों भाई, लिफ्ट लगी है ना, मैं तो टॉप फ्लोर पर भी पढ़ा हूँ, मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है। तो हम ये कहते हैं कि आपके आसपास में जो भी स्कूल हो, उसी स्कूल को, उसी कॉलेज को हम मॉडल स्कूल या कॉलेज की तरह से क्यों ना डेवलप करें। ये हमारा काम है और हमने अपने कॉलेज में ये करने की कोशिश की है। लगातार हम इसी चीज पर फोकस करते हैं। हम चाहे कॉन्फ्रेंसेस कम कराते हैं, वर्कशॉप्स कम कराते हैं, लेकिन इंफ्रा पर पूरा पैसा खर्च करते हैं। पूरी तरह से इंफ्रा को हम एक्सेसिबल बनाने की कोशिश करें, ये जरूर। तो हमको यदि इंक्लूसिव एजुकेशन की बात करनी है तो उसमें डिसेबिलिटी के पर्सपेक्टिव को बहुत प्राइमरी रखकर हमें काम करना शुरू करना चाहिए। तभी कहीं इंक्लूसिव एजुकेशन का एक फॉर्मेट सोसाइटी के अंदर जो इग्नोर्ड रह जाते हैं उनको हम कहीं ना कहीं मेन स्ट्रीम में लाने की कोशिश करेंगे। मुझे लगता है कि और हम ये कॉलेज में हमने करीब 2010 से ये करना शुरू किया और अभी बहुत सारी चीजें हमने कॉलेज में की है। तो ठीक है कि हम बड़े कॉन्फ्रेंसेज वर्कशॉप्स नहीं करते हैं और कम करते हैं, लेकिन मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि अगर 50,000 रुपए की कॉन्फ्रेंस करनी है तो उससे अच्छा 50,000 रुपए की एक मैं रैंप बनाकर तैयार करूँ, वो आने जाने के लिए ज्यादा कहीं काम करेगा। तो आप सबका बहुत बहुत स्वागत आईपीसी की ओर से। आईपीसी लगातार पिछले वर्षों से 3 4 5 सालों से हम कॉन्फ्रेंसेज पर, वर्कशॉप्स पर, कॉलेज की एकेडमिक क्वालिटी पर, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव क्वालिटी पर बहुत काम करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं और उसी का एक ये कॉन्फ्रेंस भी उसी के तहत आने की कोशिश की है। और राधिका का, मैडम प्रिंसिपल का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि आपने हमारे सहयोग से, हमारे कोऑपरेशन में, हमारे कोलैबोरेशन में ये काम करने की काम किया। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Briefly translating what Dr. Yogesh Gupta had stated, he said that he will speak in Hindi because part of inclusion is also about speaking in the language of comfort. And he spoke about the necessity of taking in disability issues and the inclusion, apart from the other issues of inclusion associated with identity, with caste, class, and gender. So he talked about why, instead of setting up separate facilities, why not have facilities which are attended by all students and developing that. And there is an effort in our college, for instance, to include and include students with disability, faculty with disability, by working on the infrastructure of it. And for the last many years, there has been an effort to build on the infrastructure and making all parts of the college accessible to people with disability, both faculty as well as students. He further stated that there is also, he talked about IQAC, which is the internal quality assurance of the college, and mentioned that there is an effort to have workshops and conferences and other such programs as part of the course. But there is, because in a college like ours, which has such a large strength, so both the processes of holding academic work as well as building on infrastructure is both a parallel process. And he welcomed everybody here. I would now invite Dr. Aarti Mathur to introduce us to some aspects of the Department of Elementary Education. And this is the department within which the course of a Bachelor's in Elementary Education is being conducted. And in the coming year, we have another course which is coming in, actually, which is the IT. She'll just brief us quickly about these two teacher education programs that we conduct. We as an institution, we hold pride in the kind of educational transaction that we have had in developing teachers who are gone now. They are Many of them are teaching in various public schools across the country. Many of them are teaching in many international and private schools as well. There are many students who have pursued higher education in India and abroad. And we also have faculty from in our own departments who have started this course and are now preparing to be, who are now full-time teachers and educators. I would welcome to brief us about the department a bit.
Good morning, everyone, to this August gathering. We are here gathered to interact and to understand each other, the Indian and the Finland University, how we are working. The department right now is running the Bachelor's of Elementary Education program. In India, teacher education is a very critical and an important component of education, which prepares teachers. To give you a brief outline, it prepares teachers at two levels. One is the pre-service teacher training program, and the other one is the in-service teacher education program. For the pre-service teacher education program, across India, there are many institutes which are offering education to the prepared teachers at different levels. So right now, we categorize them as primary, elementary, secondary, and senior secondary level. So we have programs which give a learner a diploma, then a degree, and in that we fall as Bachelor's of Elementary Education, which is a 4-year integrated program, which offers a degree program. So for BLEd, it's not such that we only focus on education in a particular year, but when the learner takes admission in this program for the very first year, they tend to understand with what kind of the learner they are going to teach at the school level. So from the first year itself, we take them to school. We have school contact programs where we have interaction with the learners at school in a group, where we interact with them in an activity board. We also try to understand the psychology of the learner, where we tend to read through the subjects like child development, the psychology of the learner to whom we are going to cater at the school. Then we also work on the fundamentals of the core subjects like that of mathematics, social sciences, and pedagogy of EVS. The second year focuses on the language, where we talk about how a learner acquires language, where we have papers like language across curriculum, or how the textbooks of language are developed, or what storytelling plays, how storytelling plays an important role in narrating the concept to the learner. So all this is integrated in the second year. In third year, the focus is upon the social sciences, where we talk about what really pedagogy of environmental sciences, how it should be interacted or translated to the learners at the school level to understand the holistic level of the learner there. Then we have the mathematics education, where we understand the nature of the discipline, how the what really mathematics is, how we need to remove the fear of doing mathematics, how to think mathematically. We do that, and in fourth year we have a rigorous internship program where we are into the school as interns, and we are there for about 8 months in the school, and our interns work with the school like school teachers, and for 2 days they come to college to get their plans checked. Since we are there as interns, so we need to plan what teaching we are going to deliver at the school level, so that is done at the college level. So inclusivity is there in BLEd program, where we are tending to understand the kind of learner that we are going to approach at the school. Our aim is not only to prepare them pedagogically, but also to sensitize our to-be teachers to understand their learner, the kind of socioeconomic background the learner is coming from, the what language your learner would be having, the experiences the learner would be having. All this is discussed in the classroom when we are talking about the pedagogy, or when we are talking about say the particular subject, the nature of the program. The new education policy of 2020 envisions this comprehensiveness in the teacher education program, where we are not only focusing upon providing degree to the individual regarding education, but a comprehensive understanding of the discipline that they will be teaching, and also allowing them to understand the learner, to actively tend to involve the learner in the classroom. And it's a pleasure to share that we at Mata Sundari is the first institute who are going to begin with this program with this academic year. So we are in the process of admissions, and soon we are going to have students, and it will be a pilot mode right now. But when you come next year, we would be able to share more of our experiences of the two programs, of the Bachelor's of Elementary Education program and the Integrated Teacher Education program, that the new education policy the country is envisioning right now. And we are, the country is, say, focusing upon to have this umbrella program of ITEP by 2030. So we are beginning with this process. We need your best wishes also, so that we successfully run this program, and both the programs will really help the country to bring about the inclusivity and to provide good quality teachers to the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramsey. We have faculty from different disciplinary backgrounds, including training. At the end of the workshop, at the end of the seminar, we will have an interactive session with you to understand the kind of research activities that our faculty conduct. There are also the possibilities of what is it that we can work together in strengthening our work and for us to share knowledge. I would like to invite our principal, Madam, again to felicitate our guests. Yeah. May I invite Professor Silva from University of Louisiana. In this process of knowledge sharing. Yeah, that's a Dokra work from Madhya Pradesh. And the flowers are made by our students. And Professor Sirpa, I understand that you have got a small token of from your side to felicitate our principal.
Travelers who comes to think that they because whatever it is, our podcast, our big stars have been much more than 100 podcasts. And it's for true. They were
May I now invite Professor Sai from the University of Helsinki.
also confined when the rain comes, the kick of water, to the boundaries of the nature. Sign of knowledge.
The class are made by our students. I would like to invite Pia from GINTL, Global Innovation Network for Teaching and Learning. May I now invite Christabel Toyan. She's the director of the Nordic Center in India. May I now invite Dr. Arti Mathur to felicitate our principal and thank her for all the support that she keeps giving us. As we continue the seminar, we also get to know a little bit more about the two institutions, the Global Innovation Network for Teaching and Learning, GINTL, and the Nordic Center. May I invite Pia to come and tell us about this organization and this network?
Just a couple of slides. First, that's zero plus. This one? No, that's zero. Okay. This one? Yeah. Okay, good. Start from here.
Good morning, everyone. I am Charu Sharma. I'm a third-year student from BLA, and I feel honored to introduce our speakers. I'll start with Ms. Pia Krimar. Ms. Pia Krimar worked as the project management for the Gentle India Network at the Faculty of Education and Psychology. Pia takes care of operation and finances with Gentle India. Pia has been managing and organizing various international partnerships with education and development. She works closely with the Nordic Center in India to develop collaborative programs between academic institutions in India and Finland. Thank you. Over to you, Pia.
Thank you for your introductions and good morning, and happy to be here, and we're glad that we can have this time this morning to go and exchange and interact on various things on education. So as mentioned, I work as a project manager at the Global Innovation Network for Teaching and Learning. We always shorten it to GINTL, India. We are a network of 10 Finnish universities around Finland, and the network is coordinated at the University of Jyväskylä, which is sort of center part of Finland, of the country. We work closely with University of Helsinki, and we have our sister networks, Africa and China, administered at the Helsinki University, and Dr. Sai is the director of the China and Africa Digital at the Helsinki University. Basically, it started that our Ministry of Education and Culture in Finland wanted to support the universities for internationalization and also building relationships and collaborating with the universities in these 3 regions. And our program runs until December 24 at the moment, unless we get some more funding from our ministry. It's not going to? Oh, it's. Okay, now it went. Okay, so basically, why we are here today, we came as a delegation of 13, and we have representatives from 4 universities, from Helsinki and Jyväskylä, and we also had our university and Oulu University with us. We stayed here in Delhi, and the others kind of went to Bangalore and also Mumbai, so we kind of shared our resources and went to meet different partners. We've been here this week. We've been meeting our partners that we are currently collaborating, also network with new institutions as well. And we organized 1.5-day seminar together with the Nordic Center on Indo-Finnish partnerships in education research. And there was also some of your professors present there. And we had good interactions on different thematic areas of early childhood education, teacher education, experiential learning, and inclusive education. So we as a GINTL will facilitate and create space for networking and interaction for our partners. And for that, we tried to address also jointly through research some of the educational challenges, and we tried to develop sort of deeper partnerships with the universities, between the universities and other institutions. One of the aspects is also the boost mobility and global mindset, both in the Finnish universities and also in the EU. So that's sort of broadly our 3 goals. See if I can. No, okay, okay. So here you got a few examples of what we are sort of doing. There's knowledge sharing seminars. We have the Helsinki University, Asintanji University as well, and we of course welcome other universities to join us. And then there is each hour sort of the funding base, like the ministry gave funding to each universities so they can sort of develop their own projects or also join our common events and activities. Tampere University, for example, who is partnering with us or is part of GINTL, they have digital agriculture program going on, and Oulu University has sustainability and student exchange with Pune University. Other university is very much interested in problem-based education and higher education pedagogy. And also we actually, with the Nordic Center, we organized this training placement for students. So we had 4 students from our university in Kolkata for 2 months practice placement last summer. So, I said, like we've done a lot of online events and a few of these on site. And we still have some ongoing events that you are welcome to join. There are some knowledge sharing seminars in certain thematic areas. And next ones we have math education, social science, and inclusion and diversity coming up. Then we are planning the excellence series with Nordic Center. We can share more information about that when we will get our plans together. Then we've done regular 1-hour coffee chats, and that's together with Helsinki. We have a thematic one theme, someone is sort of presenting, and then we do the breakout rooms with discussions, and we have usually participants Finland, India, China, and different African countries, and I think there has been some other countries present there. We also are doing research skill in master classes for master students, and research method session for it's a bit underneath, but that's more for the PhD students, for example. And the next ones are an action research and narrative research. So if you are interested in participating in these online events, so please go to see our website. And you can, it's the chintul.org, and you can see 3 regions there, and you can have a look of what we have done and what various online events there are that you can also participate online. And if you have some kind of a class, and that you could even arrange and come, so you can join with your class if you have those with the schedule wise and topic wise. Yeah. Thank you. So I think that was all from my side. And I think I'll give the floor to the Christabel.
Hello again, everyone. Now I would like to introduce Ms. Christabel Royal, who's Director of Nordic Center in India. The Nordic Center in India, NCI, is a consortium of leading universities and research institutions in Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden. NCI's objective is to facilitate cooperation in research and higher education between the Nordic countries and India. NCI has been facilitating students program as well as research-related cooperation for more than 2 decades in India. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the introduction to the Nordic Center in India has already been done. So let me quickly say that for Indian students in particular, we do a lot of work in the area of mobility in terms of higher education exchanges between the Nordic universities and Indian universities. So what I would suggest is if any of you is interested in the Nordic region for further studies, for capacity building within your particular area of interest, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. A similar message to university faculty members, to your faculty members as well. Any interest in terms of cooperating with the Nordic side? There is a lot of interest in the Nordic region in terms of cooperating with India. India is one of the important regions for the Nordic region in general. So if you do have any interest, don't hesitate to reach out. We work primarily in the area of higher education and research cooperation. And as my friend rightly said, we've been running a lot of mobility programs. We've got a lot of one way, unfortunately, with more Nordic students coming to India, particularly in social sciences and humanities coming over. But our larger aim is to have a more equitable exchange. And with the NEP and the changes that the UGC has brought forth in terms of credit transfers and things like that, we're hoping that it becomes much more possible in the recent future. So, as I said, I'm standing between a much more meaty dialogue that's going to happen after me. So, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any interest in the Nordic region, I would be happy to facilitate to the best possible extent. Thank you. We begin our lectures for today. We have two speakers, Professor Sai and Professor Sirpa. They will be first, there will be a 20-minute address by them, wherein they share about the areas that they would be giving us an overview of the Finnish education system, the kind of tests and assessments that are conducted at the basic level, as well as there is also a lecture by Sai on the inclusive education. So these are going to be 20-minute sessions followed by discussions and questions. So please note your questions now so that we can have it a little more interactive and so that we can get to understand where is it, how do we link all this, how do we construct knowledge out of this understanding of the different education systems that we are familiar with now. Acharu, would you please introduce Professor Silva?
Hello, everyone. Professor Sirpa Eskila Havanan, who's a PhD honor, adjunct professor, and currently working as the director of Department of Teacher Education, University of Jyväskylä. She has previously worked as lecturer of early education at the University of Lapland and University of Jyväskylä, and as a senior lecturer of special needs education at the University of Tampere. Before university career, she worked as classroom teacher 20 years and simultaneously attended many international and national projects as coordinator, trainer, and researcher. During 2015 to 2020, she was active in service trainer and researchers in ELPA 1 and ELPA 2 projects, which focus bilateral collaboration between Eritrea and Finland SIE. Her qualitative studies focus on early years education, school transitions, and educational research on studying conceptions and beliefs. She supervises several doctoral dissertations in education and is current active researcher in several projects. In addition, she has extensive national higher education cooperation networks on the board of numerous committees and has been several times as an invited speaker in national and international conferences and events in the field of education. We are honored to have you here, ma'am. Thank you.
Which one? This one? There. That's one. Mitä? Joo, mutta tää oli ok. Very sharing. So can I share it? So here. Yep. It's now shared, isn't it? Yeah. Madam Principal, Dr. Radhika Menon, Dr. Logos Gupta, who was here, Dr. Arti, dear audience here and dear audience remotely. When you introduced me, you said you are honored, but we are so honored to be here. Very good morning to you all, almost. Well, I have 20 minutes to open you huge topics and huge themes. So just a couple of things about Jyväskylä University. This picture was supposed to show what's the climate now in Finland, like autumn leaves, very colorful autumn leaves down the riverbank, where you can see also one of our campus
buildings and a nice great spot. What we heard this week, we have almost 30 centimeters of snow. So we have snow cover and about 10 degrees below zero. So this is not the picture of today, but it's usually like this during autumn time. What should I? Oh, enter. Okay. And nothing happens. Okay. Okay, thank you. So a couple of words about the Finnish teacher education. So it was really established in Jyväskylä 160 years ago, and now we are having our 160 years anniversary this just now in Jyväskylä. What's remarkable is that even 160 years ago, they all already included women to attend teacher education. And you can see below Uno Sygneus, who was the head of this seminar and also established and got the whole idea to train teachers to educate society. And he has very novelty ideas to include, I would like to say that just the same kind of ideas to teacher education as nowadays. Teacher education should not be separated for everyday life. So they already included, for example, handicraft, music, householding, and so on in teacher education studies. Also, it was really little bit research-based. University of College of Education was established 34, and nowadays it's something like that you see below. And in CYU teacher education, in Finland we have the widest profile, but there is only one exception. Helsinki has almost all these, but I somehow had to raise my hat here. So we have a preparation for teacher in easy studies, primary school teacher education, special education teacher studies, study counselors, subject teacher studies on that base that they come from different faculties, which we have 6 faculties and total of 10 departments, which I'm heading. And then we have principal studies and adult education teacher studies. And here you can see the view of our Ruusupuisto building, and in the entrance hall, students usually sit there and interact. And this is very nice place made basically of a birch tree and lots of glass. So teacher education in Finland, it's very research-based education, because all of our teachers are masters, except early childhood education teachers, but nowadays basically they also want to continue as masters, because in early childhood education and care you have to have master's degree if you want to be head of kindergarten or preschool education or those kind of early childhood settings, either private sector or public sector. And theory and pedagogical are always intertwined, and all our teachers are situated in early education centers, schools, educational institutions, also called third sector. But in this manner, we have one research project going on, and we want to study where are our qualified teachers really having, where are they having and acting as professionals? And we found those teachers, for example, from running and heading big companies. There are a lot of actors whose basic profession is in teacherhood. We also have artists, like consults. So teachers are not always going to be teachers as professionals, but it gives you a really good basis to continue or choose many professions. So we give teachers pedagogical knowledge and subject knowledge. And how do we choose our future teachers? We have a so-called Vakava examination, which have two phases. First phase is based on matriculation exam test, and there are chosen to based on that to the first one. So exact matriculation exam test is kind of first phase, and we can take in only 10% of all applicants. So if, for example, 300 applicants apply to one way, for example, to classroom teacher education, we can take in 30. So it's very competitive. And the first phase is literate test, and for all applicants, not only those who be selected, and it's a multiple choice questionnaire, and those applicants only get those academic tests in this situation when they are doing those tests. So they can't prepare. So we believe that during their previous studies, they have some kind of academic skills to read those texts, to understand and answer those multiple questions. It's really hard. After a couple of years, I quit to do those tests because I tell you, 1 year I failed. Yes. So have you tried, Sai? No. Yeah. Yes, that's true. And the second phase is aptitude test to those selected candidates based on literate test. And we tried within quite limited time. They go to, we call them stops, 4 stops, and we try to find out whether they are motivated, whether they have social skills, whether how can they interact with quite hard situation, and so on. And based on those rankings, each candidate is ranked by one and only, usually they are lecturers or maybe researchers who very carefully, according to criteria, look at those skills. And during one day, one lecturer may have even 70 students, 70 applicants to look at. So it's very reliable test as well. And here I have gathered some objectives of teacher education, and you can read those red highlighted contents. So teachers should have research orientation to their work, and we try to teach and educate them to be independent problem solvers, and also give them capacity to utilize the most recent research. And furthermore, our education, not only our education in university, although there is University of Jyväskylä's picture, but in all our universities, teacher training universities, we try to enhance capabilities for acting teachers, independent workers, instructors, or educators. So it's not only the contents, but it's much more with the skills and knowledge. And I want to stress above all motivation to be teachers. So I already said that teacher qualification, it's always master basis, with the exception of bachelor's in ECEC. And we try to find out well-suited and motivated applicants. And these national entrance tests, they are national-wide, and they are also created as research-based together with the representatives of all universities. So we really agree, all universities, that we are going to have these just same texts very broadly in education area, not only the teacher education, but all education level. So all teachers have a research orientation, and it's not that you are going to be researchers, but it is that you can reflect your own profession as researcher. And when you see different kind of phenomena in surrounding society, you can think, what I am recalling from those previous papers, for example, how can I understand that phenomena? How can I deepen this phenomena with the research I have read or conducted? And Finnish teachers are very well known of high professional autonomy. That means that I would say that they can do whatever they want to do in their classrooms according to curriculum. But curriculum, it's not so strict. It gives you some kind of guidelines and framework, but you have autonomy to pick up those things you want to have in your classroom with your students. And if you want to take, for example, a picture of this teacher education contents, curriculums, you can take it now, because these are also gathered from all our 8 universities, or are there 9? Yes, if we yes, of course, there are also, yeah, I also forgot to include our Swedish teacher training education. I think this is mainly repetition, but here you can see where these all teachers settle. So early childhood education teachers, mainly in daycare centers and pre-primary education. Pre-primary is nowadays mandatory in the 6 years of age, and school entrance is in Finland age of 7, and it has always been so rather late, because we want to ensure children enough time to play, have fun, and not to sit with desks. So special education teachers, they are basically in every educational level. Guidance and career counselors, they are needed, especially when youth are thinking, how should I proceed with my education? Or what's my future career? Or should I go to vocational education? Or should I choose maybe academic path and so on? And we also educate adult education and pedagogical educational professional. And primary school teachers, so usually we speak about class teachers. They usually go to so-called elementary schools or comprehensive schools, or they may also act like subject teachers because they usually take subject teaching as another master, or at least so-called wider subject. And then subject teachers, they do their masters in their own faculties, and then they come to a faculty of education to do their pedagogical studies. I skipped this slide about national core curriculum, but I want to highlight only those transversal competence areas. We do not anymore stress on subjects in our national core curriculum. We try to integrate those subjects together to have those 7 transversal competence areas as phenomena. But still, of course, we have subjects, but we are trying not to divide them so that now we are going to have a maths lesson. Of course, they are learning math, but we are trying to integrate math to other phenomena, at least in the basic education. But in lower secondary and upper secondary, they are taught as divided. And I go these very quickly through class teacher education, which means 300 credit points. There are, for example, language and communication studies, basic studies in education, intermediate studies in education, meaning also supervised teaching practice, advanced studies in education when they do their master's thesis in education. And again, supervised teaching practice. This little bit varies according to universities, but 300 credits is mandatory in bachelor's level, 180, and in master's level, 120. What is typical for class teacher education and all our in all our universities is so-called multidisciplinary school subjects. So every class teacher is qualified to teach all subjects. Not only qualified, but class teachers teach every school subject. So like that way is they don't differentiate it from education. It's very pedagogical way to teach all subjects, to have them taught by one and only teacher. And there is also many other advantages. Class teachers really know their students and know their individual skills and also those things that needed to be supported. And then we have 4 teaching practices. I know that this also varies according to universities, but mainly 2 teaching practices are during bachelor's thesis, bachelor phase, and these 2 are done when they are doing their masters. And they have different topics, but during teaching practices also research is very integrated to teaching. And they are supervised by our lecturers, our academics from university, as well as schools' own academics. And what's one thing I want to emphasize is that in JYU, we give many dual eligibilities. So it means that you have you have also for example, special needs educators qualification, as well classroom teachers qualification, and also possible subject eligibility. We have those dual eligibilities in classroom teacher and mathematics, and also with language teachers. And nowadays also we give a qualification within 5 years to act like classroom teacher and physical education teacher. So it gives much more wider profile to classroom teacher to choose whether he or she wants to teach in elementary level or in upper secondary level or in vocational level and so on. It gives much more options. Now I jump to assessment and I ask how much I have time. Okay, little pressure because I know this is quite interesting area as well. Because when we go abroad, Finnish lecturers go abroad, always assessment is one thing which is asked, because we do not have tests in our schools. Yes, we have kind of tests, but we do not have national testing. The first national test is when students are age of 18 or 19, when they have their matriculation exam tests. Of course, they attend like PISA tests or something like that, but the first one, which is mandatory, is matriculation exam. So how teachers know what's going on without grading? That's very typical when we are asked about assessment. So there are some bullet points, because assessment is not only assessment, it's present in every phase of learning and teaching. It's the basis of planning and implementation and vice versa. It informs the level of learning and development. And it's also a way of planning instruction. And of course, you have to know, you have to reflect and assess to differentiate and support. How do you know to support systems or the best way to support if you do not know, and if you do not know individual children and child and his or her capabilities or need of support? It also promotes learning, and it must be fair, ethically sustainable, transparent, based on criteria. And when you assess, also students, child must know what are the objectives, what are criteria, so he or she can reflect himself how to proceed. And assessment mustn't ever target personality or temperament. We do not assess personality, and still it considers every student's individuality. Let's go deeper. Maybe I skip this. Main purposes of assessment. We have three kinds of purposes. Assessment of learning. It's usually those pencil paper tests and testing with grading. I mean testing, for example, using textbooks, little tests, which are usually in the end of chapters. And assessment for learning, it means that assessment is then considered from the perspective of supporting. and assessment as learning. It means that assessment and learning is continuous, and assessment is continuous, and it's always present. So feedback, continuous feedback is the most important way of thinking assessment. We need feedback all the time because we do not have tests. And it means that feedback is not given only by teachers, but you have to give feedback to yourself and reflect all the time, meaning little children are taught to reflect. And there's the place for teacher. Right when the school begins, they teach how to reflect their own learning processes. So we have these 3 levels, microscoping levels. There are seven points to remind what should you as a teacher do. You should set goals and criteria and show them to your students very clearly. And you should give feedback only according to those goals and criteria. Feedback should be descriptive according to children's age, so he or she can understand. The timing should be right. It's no worth of give feedback after a lesson. It should be given so that students really understand what he or she should do. And it should be very positively and clearly presented, again, to understand. And it should be specific enough. There is an example. Your group was quite large to allow everyone to participate equally. Next time, make groups of 3 students. For example, our very young children, they may decide how they want to work, with pairs, with groups, individually, and so on. So autonomy is also with them. And then classes for near vision. Learner and teacher, there must be respecting each other and focusing focusing on giving and receiving feedback. And everyone is learner in classroom. And assessment requires time to think and reflect, and also to study what's the purpose of assessment, to understand it's not the grading, but it's supporting. And then binoculars, future plan. When you assess, you can decide and also promote your own teaching processes. And when students assess their own work, they get understanding what are the next steps to go further. And sometimes it seems that the objectives and goals, they are far away, but then also teacher helps to settle further goals. This may be quite now messy in your head, this Finnish assessment system, but we give assessment like diagnostic in the beginning of a certain phenomena or certain area of learning or certain chapter and so on. It's according to students' age. Formative, so continuous giving feedback. Summative, not only in the end of semester. Summative can be even in the end of lesson. Assessment, self-assessment, reflecting processes, peer assessment, like with your friend or group, and it's usually given in collaboration, individually, transparently, openly, written, oral. There are so many modes. And feedback should feed teachers' learning forward, identifying next steps in a teacher's learning journey. So this means that teacher is always learner, student is always learner, we are always learners. I think that you should read that Brookhart Moss text. This really makes sense. I really like this assessment article. So feedback is given to students, from students, and from colleagues also. I usually ask my students and my little children in the first class, how did I manage today? And they may say, oh, you made some mistakes, and this lesson was quite boring. What should I change in my education? You can use more flexible grouping and so on. And today you forget Pekka totally. Oh, I'm sorry, Pekka. I do better next time. So it also developed teachers' own working community. I still go this slide because this is very practical. So when you give feedback continuously, it develops your own higher level thinking. And this feedback giving goes like this. This is the better way to give feedback. So specified thanks. For example, to Sai. You reasoned and expressed the answer particularly nicely. Could you repeat that again so that the whole class can hear the answer and also reflect how was this process with Sai going on? And then encouraging feedback. You can definitely do it. Try to solve it again, different way. Positive feedback, yes, good, right. And you can go right to the student and say these things individually or to the whole class. And negative feedback, it should be also given, you didn't manage it this time, because it should be also this classroom climate should be like that it can be giving negative feedback also. If you trust your students and then they trust you, you can also give negative feedback. And not any feedback at all. If there's nothing to mention, keep quiet. But general feedback targeted, there is a typo to the whole class, good, or thumbs up. It's not so good. Try to imagine a situation that there are some students who are doing whatever they want to do and not concentrating to your teaching, and then they give positive feedback. Well done, well done. And so this quality is quite bad. So it's even worse than giving feedback at all. So do not give general feedback if you do not have time to give individual feedback. And this is quite bad. The teacher turns to others. What would you like to say about this? And play. You should never play. So there is difference between playing and negative feedback. And this is my last slide. Remember always that children are building with reflection their own self-concept. And when the self-concept is very negative, it affects your future studies. According to some studies, when self-concept is very low, it may even have impact your career as your academic career. Then you do not have belief in yourself. But with feedback, positive feedback, you can promote everyone's self-concept to grow and promote future career and future engagement and identity and agency to become better student, to become better friend, to be better individual in our community. Thank you for your attention.
Yes,
Yes.
I have a question from you. I just want to know one thing that as we see in this presentation, the class teachers or the subject teachers are placed away. So my question is that our class teachers, they are also trained to deal with special needs children, like autistic or the ADHD children. So since class teachers are teaching all the subjects, so are they also trained to deal with such children in the classroom?
Thank you for your very good question. We have some special needs education and inclusive contents in our curriculum, but there is too little those contents. But nowadays, more and more classroom teacher students want to include to their studies also special needs educational studies, and they more and more also do the so-called dual qualification. In our faculty, it's possible to do both these within 5 years of bachelor's and master's level. So this is one option. But the other option is that nowadays we have so-called team working quite a lot. So in a classroom, there is always also special educator. So taken together solve these supportive procedures and so on. There are many possibilities to solve that. And but I think that when they go to the field, so-called field, then they know more about these procedures and get help, and they get in-service training. So this is quite in good level. And Saui is going to continue with inclusive education. So basically all children are integrated, so-called ordinary classes. So we must solve these problems quite beforehand.
After a few years, perhaps, they feel the need to learn more about education, about skills, in that respect. And in each university and university of life sciences has also an open teachers.
open university of particular university offers exactly the same courses open to anyone. So very, very many people take special needs education courses through the open university as they are already in the working life. And I think University of
Jyväskylä, yeah.
Open University, and they have the biggest number of teachers who are actively acquiring more skills. And what is interesting is that the Open University studies are not free, like degree studies. So teachers have to pay for the studies. In some municipalities, the municipality, they support teachers by paying their tuition fees. But some teachers, they put their own money to study more. And I think that really shows how committed teachers are and how motivated they are to learn more. And yeah, and I think that's some of those teachers who take these courses, they also look for kind of like a new career path within special needs education and working in those schools. But some teachers, they just want it for themselves so that they can feel more confident and that they can work more confidently with the diversities.
Thank you, Sai. And in Jyväskylä University, we have a so-called alum right. So they have 2 years after their graduation possibility to take those courses, and they are free of charge. So there's possibility if you can't fit within 5 years this special needs educator qualification, they can still continue even they have taken their qualification out. So as I said, more and more teachers have dual qualification as classroom teachers and special educators. And we also have, Sai tells about their move, that kind of massive open online courses where you can check from our web pages, JYU web pages, and there are also contents for so-called continuous learning and in special education area. Even they are online courses, there are options to do some courses within your own school and then do those essays and so on and get certificated from our universities to be a so-called qualified special educator. Thank you again.
Thank you for such a wonderful. I have a number of universities, not colleges, I'll introduce them to two of you. Yeah, so first is regarding the autonomy of schools. In India, we are adhering to the long legacy where the teachers are transmitters or state agents, and we are working with no or less autonomy in the classrooms. We deliver what we get from this stage. Can you speak a little bit about the autonomy of teachers or teacher educators in Britain? That's number one. Number two is regarding assessment. So we talked about some tests and some assessment criteria in terms of the Finnish context. I'd like to hear about how do we see the community engagements that we assess the people? Do we see community engagement also as a criteria, or it's purely theoretical or intellectual?
Okay, thank you for your two questions. And the first one concerns about autonomy and how we became autonomous. I think it depends much on our society. Even the core curriculum is guiding us. And it's developed by normal teachers, academics, stakeholders, and so on. It just gives guidance to local municipality level curriculums. And then even schools may have their own curriculum according to core curriculum with special features according, for example, if they want to have more contents from nature pedagogy or something like that. And children may have even their individual curriculums. So there are just certain things, for example, amount of contents you must have in mathematics or in English. And English should be taught from the first year on. There are just things like that. And a teacher can decide everything else. And he or she can decide which kind of pedagogy he or she follows. So it's so rooted in Finnish education system that we can't think it otherwise. It's just impossible that teachers should follow certain pedagogy or certain policy paper. It doesn't happen in Finland. I hope I could answer to your question. Because even we have so many similarities with you, and we have learned from you a lot. This is one thing that it can't be explained without knowing our society quite profoundly. And the other thing was about assessment. Yeah, you asked about teachers. How we assess teachers? They are not assessed. We don't rank them because they are all quite high qualified. So of course we know that there are more committed teachers than the others. There are more motivated teachers than others, but they all have had similar high qualification. So now we have little signs of little polarization between schools. And it's so that we don't have bad schools or good schools because they are all public schools, but we do not have private schools. All children attend their so-called neighborhood schools. So that's also the background that all teachers, they may choose whatever school they want to be as teachers. But usually those schools where there are more, for example, languages, more different cultures, or which are more diverse, there are the best teachers and always very motivated teachers because it means more work. So we do not assess our teachers. We do not assess our teachers at all. But of course, they have feedback from each other. And principal plays very, very, how should I say, crucial roles running his school and giving feedback to their teachers.
So my question was about
Yes, yeah. And we can continue also discussion afterward. Okay. Yeah, thank you. And now it's side turn.
Request to introduce slide.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Sai Verenan has a PhD in education, and she's currently director of the Global Innovation Network for Teaching and Learning, GINTL, coordination for Africa and China at the University of Helsinki. Faculty of Educational Sciences. She has also worked at the University of Lapland and the northernmost part of Finland. Focusing on teacher education for inclusion, she holds the position of adjunct professor in education, in particular inclusive education and global education issues at the University of Jyväskylä, Finland. Dr. Say is university lecturer in special needs education, and she has wide experience in online and distance learning teaching. She has worked internationally over 2 decades in Africa, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. She has also worked with the government representatives and agencies in her role of inclusive education advisor at UNESCO from 1995 to 2001, including the NCRT and in many Finland's bilateral development cooperation projects on inclusive education from 2002 to 2009. She has also served the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland at the Embassy of Finland in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and the Counselor in Education and co-chaired the Development Partners and Ethiopian Ministry of Education Coordination Group 2017 to 2020. Dr. Sai also provides in-service teacher training on issues related to inclusive education and work with international agencies such as World Bank. Dr. Sai's research interests in education are related to education policies, inclusion, and social justice. Inclusive pedagogy, teacher education, and development for inclusion, and understanding the phenomenon of education realities from multiple perspectives. We're honored to have you here, ma'am.
Thank you so much. While I'm trying to get my slides on, I feel a little bit embarrassed with these long CVs, but it just tells that I've been pretty long in this path. Well, maybe I'll just start with a very brief introduction of my affiliation, University of Helsinki. As Sirpa mentioned, University of Helsinki is in the capital of Finland. It's the biggest university, and we like to say that we are the best in many fields, not in education, because University of Jyväskylä is better. So University of Helsinki has all the faculties except the technical sciences, and we have some 50,000 students, a lot of lecturers, teachers, researchers, and our faculty of education is the biggest one. What is also interesting is that we provide education. We provide instruction and education in 3 languages, in Finnish, Swedish, and English. And of course, that poses some requirements also for teachers. So students are entitled to respond, for example, in their exams or in their assignments in Finnish, Swedish, and English. So that's perhaps kind of illustrates the nature of our university. So it is very international in many sense. At the Faculty of Educational Sciences, we also have a master's degree program in English. It's called Changing Education. We have annual intake of 40 students, but this year we had to take in more. We had almost 60 students in the program, and also some students from India. There is a lot of pressure to increase the intake, but at the moment we can't do that. We just don't have resources. We don't have people to teach in that program. I'm going to talk about inclusive education and from the Finnish and share some Finnish perspectives. I know that in your new national education policy, inclusive education has a very, very strong focus. And if we look at the ideas of inclusive education, I would say that the Indian and Finnish contexts are very, very different in many ways. If we think about the Finnish context, we have had a compulsory education since 1921, so 100 years already, although compulsory education didn't mean that all children would be included or would be attending schools. In fact, it was only in 1997 that the students with severe and multiple disabilities were actually integrated within the education system. They had education before as well, but they were taking care of our social security system rather than the education system. So this is just to illustrate that although there are policy pronouncements, the actual implementation really can take time, and the overall development within the education system. So I would say that, well, a lot of patience is needed from all those who are concerned with education development. And now this was okay. So I would just pose this question to you. What is inclusive education to you? How do you understand it? Please. Yes. Other ideas about inclusive education? Any other ideas about inclusive education? Please. Yeah, could be also that. So why I'm posing this question? It is important that when we are talking about inclusive education, we should be very particular about what we mean by inclusive education, because inclusive education may be very different in different contexts. And now when I'm talking about Finnish context, I want you to remember that we have a long experience, long history of democracy. We have a long history of relatively equal society. We have relatively good resources for development. Well, Finland has been very poor. We have experienced 2 wars, well, 3 wars in more than 100 years, and it is my generation of people and Sirpa's generation people who have experienced this wonderful development in education that we call the comprehensive school, that has been implemented since 1970. In my childhood, Finland was not very rich, and the kind of wealth and the development in education has become with the growing wealth in the country. So this is the background when we are talking about inclusive education or our education system in general. So democracy, social security, now quite a long time of peace and resources. So what is in our policy? We have a legislation in relation to equal opportunities, equality, equity, about gender equality. We have a legislation of anti-discrimination and so on. So the kind of broad broad principles of equality and inclusion within the society are in place. I would say that the most important policy that guides our work in education, especially in basic education, is this document, National Curriculum Framework for Basic Education. And as Sirpa mentioned, it is a framework, and each municipality, which is the provider of the education, develop their own curriculum based on this document, taking into account the local characteristics, whether it is a small village in somewhere more remote parts of Finland, or whether it is a very multicultural suburb in Helsinki. So they are very different in terms of setup. And in this document, for the first time in our education history, there is a word inclusion. And it says on page 18 that basic education will be developed on the principle of inclusion. That's all, nothing else. And this is good and the bad thing at the same time, because as I asked you, what does inclusive education mean to you? Well, this pronouncement makes different interpretations in Finland among teachers, among education administrators, among the policymakers, among researchers, and so on. So although my colleagues at the University of Helsinki, they say that they are focusing on inclusive education in their research, but they do completely different research than I do, because our thinking of inclusive education might be very, very different. So what is there actually in that document if it doesn't really talk about inclusion more than this? So I think that the elements for inclusive education are in our national curriculum, but you really have to think what is it there. So here are some of the principles that you can find in the document. It talks about individual uniqueness and dignity. I think dignity is a very important word. It talks about the right to fulfill one's potential as human being and as a member of society. And I think this is also important because in Finnish culture, we tend to be very like a family centered. Our communities very often are very, very small, just around the core family, not even the extended family. And this talks about the whole society. So there is this idea of inclusion to focus on broader issues than just individuals or individual needs. Our curriculum framework talks about the kind of school where should be a lot of encouragement, support, experiences of being heard. There should be a lot of learning and caring of well-being. The kind of the things that Sirpa talked about in relation to assessment, our thinking about assessment. And there should be an experience of inclusion. The kind of personal feeling that I am part of this community. This is my place. I can make meaningful contributions with the abilities, with the interest, with the skills that I have. And those contributions are equally appreciated and so on. And again, there are some general objectives related to gender equality and also reducing exclusion and marginalization. So all these elements are there in the document, although it only mentions inclusion once without further explanation. So, okay. So what does this mean in practice then? How these policies are present in our practice in schools. As I mentioned, municipalities are responsible for organizing the schools in the locality. So the system is very, very decentralized. So you can imagine that there is a variation in Finland. We have a very, very small municipalities with only 1,000 inhabitants. And we have the big metropolitan area with more than 1 million people. Well, in the scale of India, it's very small, but but in Finland, the scale is big. So there are these local variations in terms of resources, interpretations of what inclusive education is about practice and support. I checked how inclusive we are in terms of making sure that all children are at school. These are World Bank statistics. They have an interesting way of producing these statistics. But it says that in compulsory education, which at the time these statistics have been gathered, compulsory education was from grade 1 to grade 9. And it said that out of school children in primary education was 1.7%. And I was thinking that, well, I mean, this is quite odd because actually we should have everybody included because it is in the legislation. And what I gather about these statistics is that we do have children who are taught by their parents. They are in so-called home schools, or children might have a very serious, let's say, mental health issues, and they might be studying at home. And the teacher from the school would go to the home every now and then, and so on. So otherwise, I don't see any rational in that figure. But that's also a warning. When you look at the statistics, try to think what is behind there. Try to find out how they have been put together. In lower secondary education, which is grade 7 to 9, out of school youth are 0.3%, very, very little. And in upper secondary from grade 10 to 12, it is about 5%. So in terms of access to education, we are, I would say, doing very, very well. And these 5% of students who are out of school at the upper secondary level, it has been a tremendous concern to us. And since last year, or is it this year, we introduced the compulsory education was extended, and last year, yeah, the compulsory education was extended up to 18 years to cover also upper secondary school, because we want these 5% who were out of school also to continue their education. But these 5% of students, most of them have not only educational difficulties and challenges, but merely social, emotional, behavioral, all kinds of challenges. But it tells that in our system, we really try to make sure that everybody is with us. And again, when talking about inclusive education, and Sirpa talked about it, one of the aspects that also makes inclusive education perhaps look different in different places is the teacher autonomy, because it is really the teachers who make inclusion happen. So in one class in a school, you might find very, very beautiful inclusive practices, and in another class in that same school, it might not be very inclusive. And it is about the teacher autonomy. So it is about the pedagogy, materials, teachers thinking, their values, their motivation, but also professional competence. So usually in Finland, when we talk about inclusive education. Now the difference to India perhaps comes here is that usually we talk about the placement of students with the disabilities and other so-called special educational needs in ordinary schools. The children might be in special classes, separate classes that are located within the ordinary schools or in ordinary classes. About half of the students who receive additional support in schools, they are full-time in special classes. And about half of them, they are fully or partially in ordinary classes. In our legislation, there is an entitlement for support to all those students who require some kind of support as soon as the need arises. Very often, this support is provided by special education teachers, but also class teachers or subject teachers during their ordinary lessons. And what we also have in schools in terms of support is what we call, this is a very kind of administrative term, multidisciplinary support teams. So it means that there are teachers, special education teachers, there might be social workers, youth workers, there might be school psychologists, maybe the nurse, and so on, to work together to think about the appropriate support that can be provided to individual students so that they can succeed in their education. So the whole idea of support in our system is that we want to make all learners to succeed in their learning. And I think that the idea of not grading or not having these standardized tests with our students is that we want to make students to succeed rather than fail. And that's why we provide support. We want them we want them to learn, and we want that all students will learn. So this is just a few graphs to see and just pose a question to you. So this is a little bit old one, but here you can see the kind of graph of the total number of students in basic education. And you can see that it's declining. It was kind of increasing at some point, but it's going down and quite drastically at the moment. I should update this. And the next graph will show you, no, it didn't here. So this graph shows the graph how we provide support to students. And you can see that we are providing support to students more and more, and that's increasing all the time. There was a little dip in 2010. It's because our kind of statistical data collection changed at the time, and there was a change in legislation. So it's again question about statistics, what is behind there. But you can see that although the overall number of students is going down, more and more support is needed. And I'll show you next one, because this, no, it doesn't show. This one. Here you see the amount of support that is provided. It goes up and up and up very, very rapidly. So the question might be, what is wrong with our education system if the number of students is going down and the support is going up? Aren't we not able to do good teaching? Well, we take a lot of pride of our good results and good teacher education and all the good things. Well, there are several possible explanations. One is that maybe our society is changing so rapidly that the students are facing more different kind of challenges. That's possible explanation. Another possible explanation is that we have quite a lot of resources that we can actually channel towards providing support. If you ask teachers, they wouldn't say that that's the explanation, but it is possible from my researcher point of view. And also a possible explanation is that there is really a strong will of making students to succeed. So even if there are minimal difficulties in learning or minimal difficulties in let's say behavior, the support is provided. We want to help students to kind of go over the barrier so that they can continue their learning. But again, the difference here to India is that all this requires a lot of resources. And my a little bit maybe provocative perception is that there seems to be resources because the amount of support is going up all the time. So how do we provide support? This is again very theoretical presentation of the support system. So we have a support system. We call it 3-tiered support. General support means support for all students in the classroom when the need arises. It could be the need could be related to learning. It could be related to social relationships, interaction, their family situation, and so on. And all teachers, at least in principle, are responsible for providing that support, but very often together with their special education teachers. And intensified support and special support mean that the student has stronger needs. They need more regular support, maybe on a daily basis or a few times a week or so on. And those are kind of students that are the main clientele of special education teachers. And this kind of support we have been implementing since 2010. So it is a relatively new system of providing support. So the question, how inclusive we are, and I will just point out in the interest of time, some very promising inclusive practices that I have seen. And this is not about the individual support. This is about the idea of building a community, building inclusive communities that are, where we can respect kind of broader spectrum of diversity. So we have a very flexible curriculum. It gives a lot of freedom for teachers, and teachers are using their autonomy. It is really a strong asset for building inclusion. We can use flexible and varying grouping. Teacher can decide how to group the learners in the classroom. Sometimes teachers work together across classes, and they do different kind of grouping for pedagogical purposes. We also know that one size really doesn't fit all. So we have to diversify our teaching practices, and teachers are doing that. I mean, I've seen wonderful examples of that, how teachers really take into account different ways of learning, different aspirations, interests, and so on. Well, I talked about the support. It's a good system that we have, but when building an inclusive education, I think what is also important is that in addition to individual support that we are providing to students, there is also support for the whole group, whole class. And we do have resources. I mean, beyond the support system. There is a very promising practice of co-teaching or team teaching, teachers working together, learning from each other, but also problem solving together. We have not enough, but coming up more teacher mentoring. Teachers who are newly qualified, they come to the school, they might get the mentor teacher in the school. But also what I think is needed more is a support to teachers. It's not enough that we provide support to the learners, but the teachers also need support because some of these situations are very harsh. Localization, the fact that we can really align the curriculum with the local context is a big asset. And I think we could use that even more. We also have very good examples of engaging learners in developing the school community. Many schools have like a big sisters and big brothers for those school entrants who are coming. So they kind of welcome the school entrance. They show how to behave in school, where to find the dining room and so on. But also some schools have student-led clubs and activities for others. And I think also it's good to think creatively about space and time in school, so that the learning doesn't happen in a kind of set place like this hall. Learning can happen in the corridor, in the schoolyard, in the neighborhood, and so on. And many schools are using this. And just a few concerns, because I think all education systems need to develop. We still have quite a strong emphasis on special needs education in our system.